Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Soul Star podcast, formerly known as Behind the Emerald Veil, with Mandy and Allison from Soul Star Energy Collective. As you know, we are intuitive teachers, coaches, healers, and we just, love to come here every week into this space and have a good chat about all things metaphysical.
Yay!
So here we are today, and we're going to bring part 2 of the foundations of intuitive development. Because last week we talked a lot about, one of the foundations we feel is very important when you're trying to build or develop your intuition, and that is understanding your own frequency and understanding your own energy. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go check it out. But today we're going to move into part 2.
Yay! Before we get into that,
story time.
So, so I have like a little story about like trusting your intuition and about the frustrations of my guide H. So I know. So Mandy and I are doing a vendor event this coming weekend. So woohoo! If you are local to us in Victoria, come on out. What's it called?
Mine's Body Spirit Fair in Langford.
Woohoo! I'm so excited. So, but in preparation for that, because we're going to have different things that we're going to sell. One of the things is our first product, which is a smudge spray. Yeah, I'm so excited for that. But we also got oracle cards, and one of the oracle cards that we got was like this pocket-sized deck, and it literally has 13 cards. So like it is like the tiniest thing. But like it's meant for kind of like when you are getting your validation. So when you're getting your synchronicities, so whether that's angel numbers or like things are coming up and you're like, ooh, this is what the card deck kind of says it's meant for. So it's got very simple answers. And so, of course I got it and I had to try it out, and it worked like the first time. Cause I was asking something like, I had no attachment to it. Mm-hmm. And it was to do with dating or whatever. Right. I just wanted to play around, and it literally worked. Like it was like, well, who knows? we'll see if it comes true, but
it felt like it did.
Yeah. It was giving me yes, no, cause it's got yes, no, answers and all that stuff. And so then when I went to use it again, and it was for something that I did care about, I had attachment for it, like threw out the listen to your intuition, and I was like, oh, screw you. And then I like pulled again, and it was like, let it go. And I'm like, what the
you let it go.
You let it go. You don't tell me what to do. And so I was like, ugh. I'm like, so what, you're just gonna give me a little bit H, and then like that's it, we're done? And I didn't think much of it. And then when I was listening to Mandy's card reading, yes, it's always fun when it's not your week, because then you get the reading. Yeah, you get the reading. And so I was listening to Mandy's card reading, and I'd listened to another intuitive's reading, and it kind of really matched. And it was kind of about like self-love and then going in and like meditating, and that this week was important for me to go in, even if it was five minutes, $5. That's what I was going to say. 5 minutes a night. And as we all know, I avoid meditating. So it was very on point. So I don't know. I just ended up being like, oh, I'm just going to see what the cards say. I don't know why.
It's like you needed more validation that card reading was for you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't even know. It was so dumb. It's like sitting on my bedside. So I was like, oh, and pull it.
Well, also it's fun to play with oracle cards. So like, why not?
It is like, why not? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I was going to do it anyways. So it doesn't
like
matter.
Do the meditation, you mean?
Yeah, I was going to do the meditation anyways. I was just like, oh, let's just like have fun with this. So I was like, oh, is that what I should be focusing on this week? Like self-love and doing this meditation. And I pull a card, trust your intuition. And I was like, can you not? And I'm just like, this is when I get mad.
Just take that card out of the deck.
Oh, I was just like, can you not? And I'm like, really? I'm like, you're the one who directed me to those messages, because you have to pick a card or, a message when you're listening to these weekly messages. You directed me to this. I'm like, so what is the big deal with you just saying yes? And so then I go and I pull a card again, and before I could even pull a card flew out, and it was yes. And then I was like, well, thank you. Was that hard? But it always is like, I have to get angry and be like, come on. Because this has happened before where I'm like, give me a break. And I just like get mad. And then he's finally like, fine.
Okay.
Here it is.
Just take that card out of the deck and don't use it.
What, the listen to your intuition?
Yeah, trust your intuition
and
card.
I was
like,
fuck you.
I acknowledge you. I know, but today is not the day. And
today's not the day. Like, shut your mouth. There's only 13 cards. Like, you couldn't have picked it. It's that one just keeps like popping in, and then the let go. Like, take it those up.
2 out. Try that.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna do that.
I feel like I have to acknowledge that I'm in a new office.
Yay! Finally, Mandy is looking brighter and whiter.
But it's probably more echoey too because I don't have carpet in here. So I'm worried a little bit about the echo, but I just don't have an area rug for this room. But what I did, so my son, he's older, like he's 16, and he last year wanted to move down into this room because this was my office at the beginning. So all of our like course content, you know, the videos, except for our most recent one, Unlocking Your Intuition. Anyways, all the previous course content has been recorded in this room. And then he wanted to move down into this room just for a little bit more privacy and just whatever. And then I was like, I tried to talk him out of it actually, because he's scared of the house. Like he sees things, he hears things.
The house talks to him.
He gets freaked out at nighttime. And I'm like, are you sure you want to be downstairs? Because that's where all the noises come from. He's like, yeah. So
by yourself.
Right. And then he did for about a year, was down here. And then I don't know, a few months ago, I was like, Jace, is there any chance we can switch rooms again? Because I don't feel like I'm accomplishing anything in that room. Like I didn't feel like it's not an office, it's a bedroom. So, and it was darker, and I knew we would switch back at some point. Otherwise I would have painted and I would have made it my own, but I just was like hanging in there just to see. And the energy in there just wasn't like conducive to the work that I do for Soul Star, or even for the bank. I felt so like stuck. So at some point I was just like, Jace, can we move? He's like, well, yeah, I'm happy to move back up. If it's more, he was totally fine with it. So I've been waiting forever for a weekend where we could just do it. And I finally just realized there is no weekend that is totally free. So we're just going to have to do it and work around whatever activities we have going on.
Yeah.
So I just did it. I was like, we're doing it today. And Jason's like, what? He's like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to move any furniture. But so I did most of it. But
you did it all by yourself?
I cleaned most of it, except for the heavy furniture. Obviously, Nick and Jason were around for that. But anyways,
it must feel so happy nice to be back. I know. And it's so much brighter. Like I'm like, it's so much brighter, and especially because my background is like super white. Yeah. It was such a contrast. I know. So I'm like, I can't really change that. Yay! Mandy's back.
I'm back. And then it feels different too. It feels good.
Yay.
It's interesting. That. Well, when you're energetically sensitive, it's really interesting to pay attention to these sorts of things. Cause I'll never forget, I actually had a standing desk, but it wasn't a full desk. It was like a portable standing desk. So you put it on your desk and then it could go up and go down. Do you remember we used to use it for podcasting in the crawl space?
Sure did.
Well, I found having that on my desk, it blocked the energy flow. And so I struggled so hard trying to find any flow in my day, and I was getting distracted easily. It just didn't feel right. So as soon as I got rid of that desk, it was like, oh, like that's what I needed to do. So it's really interesting how things like that can affect your energy and affect your accomplishment, your motivation, your clarity. Like it's your room around, like there's a lot of clutter around you. If you're energetically sensitive, it makes a big difference.
Absolutely. Well, I think people can relate to that in the sense, like if their house is dirty, or a mess, and how like we can get irritated and don't get me wrong, like I am not a clean freak at all. I struggle I have struggled with that in the past. I have found now in my own place in my condo, I'm able to, like, I don't know, I never thought I would be a clean person. And I find, like, yeah, it irritates me
Mhm.
now. But so I don't want people to be like, oh, well, are you one of those clean freaks? No, no, no,
Oh
not
no.
me. But it really, but people, everybody knows that, like, if it
Mhm.
gets to a certain point, whether you can tolerate it or not, you do get to a certain point where you're like agitated,
Yeah.
and you're just agitated and grumpy, and then all of a sudden you're like, enough, and then you clean everything and you feel so much lighter, right?
Yeah.
Like you feel
Yeah.
so much lighter. And
Yeah.
so right there, that is just energetically a thing that we
Yes.
just like don't even commute to, like energy and stuff like
Yeah. And that ties back to the first foundation of getting to know your own energy and understanding frequency. Like it's
being
little
aware.
things like this that come into your awareness, and you're like, oh, now I know for myself, I cannot work in a room with a lot of clutter, or even like making the bed every day. I
Mhm.
just have a better sleep if I crawl into a made bed.
My goodness. So I started making my bed since, like, I've never made my bed ever. Only when I would be selling a house, then I would forcefully have to make my bed. And when I moved to my condo, my mom, you know, moms, God, she's always nitpicking me, but she was like, you should get into the habit of making your bed. Trust me, you'll love it. And I was like, just because you said I don't want to. And then I was like, but then I started doing it because I got pretty bed stuff.
Yeah. I wanted my bed to look pretty.
No, I got like, I'm like one of those people now that I have throw pillows. I've never had throw pillows. So I'm like, I'm that annoying person. But you know what? I got it. And now I make my bed every bloody morning.
Mhm.
Even if I don't want to, even if I'm like, ugh, I don't, even after a nap, I remake it.
Me
What the
too.
who
Well,
is
it's
this?
sometimes Aubrey will come into my room, and like our room, and choose a side and get into our bed and just do whatever. And then she'll leave. And I'm like, Aubrey, get back here and make my bed.
Yes. And she's like, what's the big deal? You're
Yeah,
just gonna get into it tonight.
I
And you're
know.
like, that was always my thing. I was like, why the fuck am I gonna make it when I'm just gonna unmake it every night? This is, I don't like doing stupid things. Don't waste my time. Um, don't waste my time. And I don't know if I would make my bed like my condo. I like to keep my bedroom door open, and it's, you keep my bedroom door open, you're in the main living area.
Mhm.
But I like to keep it open. It just keeps it everything brighter and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe if I was back in a house and nobody was going into my room, maybe I wouldn't. I'm not sure. But
Well, no, I feel like it goes back to the flow. Like you keep your door
mm,
open because it is part of the main living space, or whatever. It's the energetic flow
it
of the
is.
space, right?
I don't like shutting it off. It
Yeah.
feels weird to,
Yeah.
but I do close my boys' bedroom because
Well,
that's just a mess.
and
Nobody wants to look at that.
and so it would be so different if it was very clean, like the energy in there is cluttery, right?
Yes, it's very cluttery. So if it
Yeah.
was clean, yes, I probably would keep it open, but because it's not, I literally, it is closed every single time
Yeah,
because
and
I'm like,
that's,
nope,
yeah. Same with
nope,
my kids' rooms. Like I keep my room door open usually, and then the kids' rooms are closed, but
closed.
yeah.
So it's like blocking the energy and
Yeah.
opening up the energy
Yeah.
flow. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Okay, so let's get to our topic. So part two of the foundation. So um as we said, we talked about the energy, all of that. That's really kind of that beginning stage of it, being aware of it. Then it is going in and quieting the mind and learning the practice of going within and, I guess we can say, meditating, whatever. Um I'm like, but it truly is that gateway.
Yeah. And honestly, okay, so I just want to say there's a lot of intuitives out there that say that you don't have to meditate.
Totally. And I
And
agree to an
mhm,
extent.
I
Absolutely.
I do too, but I also feel like if you're somebody who's at the very beginning and you're intentionally trying to develop your intuition, meditation is a game changer,
Yes.
and it is a gateway, like you said, and it's a very crucial step. And the reason is because the world is so noisy, right? it's so chaotic, especially like out in the world right now, collectively, all of the world events and current events that are happening in the world. But when you bring it down to a smaller level, in your own town or your own city, there's busyness in your own life, depending on what you have going on. Like for moms, for example, if you've got children, you're constantly worried about your children, or you're doing activities with your children or getting them places, or it's just like there's so many things that you are responsible for doing, like in for work. Like if you don't have children, maybe you're really focused on your career and you're busy in your career, and maybe you overwork. Like there's just so many things that we can distract ourselves with, and it's social media, like it's just everything. So when you learn how to go within, it is literally quieting the noise from all around you, and you find peace.
Yeah,
And you
absolutely.
find calm.
Well, and I think that's even more important nowadays, whether you are wanting to be an intuitive or even connect to your intuition, um, you know, intentionally quieting the mind and being in silence and that type of stuff, I think is really crucial. And I think even for our kids, this should be something. I was scrolling on Instagram, as I do, and
distracting yourself from
distracting
meditating.
myself. Yeah, I am. And I came across this video of, it was like a video of like in 1940, I think it was. And they had like added color and stuff to that. And I'm like watching this, and it's these people just in downtown England area. And, you know, I'm kind of like watching and going, wow, like, look how much we've changed so drastically from this modest, the way they dressed, this modest kind of like, you know, you kind of dressed up all the time, like the women in the hats.
I kind of wish we dressed up.
Yeah, like it was, but it was like modest, but then always wearing a dress and like these heels. And but then I was like, these people were sitting on this water fountain, and all of these people, right? And they were all talking, all different little groups talking. And I was like, because that's what we do. Like that's what we did. And then it brought me back to like when I would take the public bus to go to high school. And I was like, what the fuck did I do when I would wait for the bus and then I'd be on the bus? Like we didn't have the cell phones. We weren't doing that. And in my head, it makes me go like, holy shit, that must have been so boring. But it like, cause now if I think about that, I'd be like lost. But it's because we are so, our nervous system has gotten so adapted to being distracted and to being stimulated constantly, that it feels so uncomfortable to not be stimulated constantly. Like, do you watch a show and scroll your phone? Because I fucking do all the time.
I do sometimes, but also sometimes I intentionally have to put my phone in a different room so that I don't do that.
Well, but it's like I start to notice that it becomes so automatic.
Well, my daughter does it all the time. She'll put her show on, and it's just background noise while she scrolls on her phone. And I'm like, I have to monitor that because it's not healthy.
No, it's not healthy. And like, and I'll notice like if I don't have my phone, it's like an instinct. I'll instinctively just want to go and grab it to be on it for something. And I'm like, holy shit, like your mind is constantly going. And even if it's like not just to scroll, but it's like I have a thought come into my head, and then I want to find the answer. And it's like so quickly. And before it was like you didn't get the quick.
Well, and that's that's part of it too, is like we're so what is the right word? We're so programmed to have instant gratification that when we don't receive instant gratification, we get frustrated and we want to give up. Right.
Absolutely.
And I've seen this even within our business. Like at the very beginning, the expectation, the instant gratification wasn't there. And it took me so long to learn that this is a long-term thing, like the long game I'm playing. Even in life, I've noticed that even back when I was a teenager, like I'm thinking about going to post-secondary education, for example. I just didn't have the patience to think that like it's going to take 4 years to finish a degree. like that's going to be so long, you know what I mean? So I just
Mhm.
didn't do it. And but I so patience is something that I'm learning, I'd say, in this
Yeah,
lifetime, but it makes it worse with the way that the world is right now, because
absolutely.
it's like it's but also I feel like you learn that when you learn to go within, is
Yeah.
that you get when you learn how to get quiet and
Mhm.
to sit with yourself, you really learn to understand your own energy and also receive your intuition and just sort of feel how things sit with you. So when you're trying to make a decision, or when you're trying to feel into something, or make whatever it is, like you get to know how you get to sit with it for a little bit, and you get to reflect on it and contemplate with it or whatever. But there's a patience part that comes with that, right?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And I think that's where we're needing to retrain our brains to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um and and in the sense of like, I find like once you're able to master that skill in a sense of like quieting the mind, the meditation, sitting, and like, how do we tell our kids? Like, you want your kids to be bored. Be bored.
Yeah.
You need to learn to be bored. Because when they're bored, all of a sudden they start doing creative stuff. Well, it's the
Yeah.
same for us.
Mm-hmm.
We need to learn to be bored too. Because all of a sudden that's when you start to like actually hear your soul. That's when you start to hear the things outside of the distraction. That's when all of a sudden you maybe get those downloads, or those inspiring thoughts or ideas, right? Like you think of like an author writing a
Yeah.
book. They can't write a book if there's like they have to like just sit there and allow the words to come in. And that is the same type of art of opening up the space so that you can actually allow this stuff to come in. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you're struggling with a problem in your life, and you're like, I just don't know what to do, well, quiet the mind, because it's there, it's sitting just outside of there,
Yeah.
but everything is so loud. So if you quiet and tell everything to shut up, and
Mm-hmm.
you let it all down, the answers are just outside of that, and it's going to come in and inspire you.
Yeah. And I can hear somebody saying, like, well, what do you mean? Like, how do you do that? So when Ali said, like, if you have a problem and you're trying to sort it out, a lot of times we'll have an issue or something will happen to us. And we'll think about it as we go through our day, and we'll like ruminate on it, or we'll like, but we're distracted while we're trying to think about it, right? So what we mean is to just sit still, whether you're going to the park, whether you're going to the ocean, whether you're going for a hike, whether you're gardening. Sit, like, be still, be with your energy, and try not to worry about it. And when
Mhm.
you get to that point is when inspiration will come through, or clarity will come through, or a feeling will come through, and ideas will come through. So when we say downloads, what that means is all of that.
Absolutely.
You just start to receive inspiration and clarity and direction. But
Yeah.
then part of that is that we don't trust what we're receiving, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
when you practice this, you'll learn to trust what you're receiving. But then, of course, like with intuitive development, when you practice intuitive development and you go further and further, that's when that trust really starts to develop, because it's like a muscle that you have to work on, the trusting part. That's the hardest part of intuitive development. But if you're just focusing on the beginning, the foundation stuff, the getting quiet and the going within is where things will start to get louder for you.
Yeah, you'll actually hear it
Yeah.
instead of not. And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the
Recognize it.
parts. Yeah. And that's one of the parts of like when we talk about like our awakening or coming back online and stuff, and now we see things clearly. um and it's like, it's because we're able to see through, or we're able to weed through all the distraction and noise, and then we like just see it. It just comes like,
Mm-hmm.
I think we were talking about something the other day about like a corporation or whatever, and it was like, we can see so clearly
Mm-hmm.
the motive and all this stuff, but before, because we were just didn't have that.
Ingrained
Yeah,
in
we just
it.
didn't have the ability to hear outside of all the noise.
Mm-hmm.
We just couldn't recognize it, and now it just like comes in and we just clearly see it. um and I think like when we talk about meditating, like there's other, like when other intuitives say you don't have to meditate type of thing. And so Mandy really said it clearly there, where it's like in the beginning, um, it is more important because it's really hard, obviously, for us to quiet our minds. But the more you kind of like, when you start to become used to knowing what your energy is and the nuances and all that stuff, like I find now in you too, but because I've resisted meditating a lot, I find now that I can work through things because I'm way more aware of things that come in. So like, for instance, when I'm doing my healing for myself, and I've been doing a lot of healing, I'm a thinker. I'm a deep thinker, always have been. But now I can recognize the energy shifts and all of those things. So it's just so much clearer. So I can sit there. I don't have to go into meditation. I will ruminate with it. And I work out a lot of stuff. Like I'll have epiphanies and stuff like that that come in. But again, it's because I know the difference of the frequency and the energy. And it doesn't mean that I don't need to meditate. Like just said in that, like the card reading, there's times that my guide is like, get in there. And I'm like, screw you. Okay, fine. And I do it. Now, if I'm doing a reading for a client, I go into meditation 100%. Because to me, it's like this, it's a ritual. It's a sacred space. It's completely quieting, and you get into this totally, because you have to get into a certain frequency to connect in the astral realm, to connect to their energy. Like it's not in the same, plane of existence. And so going into that meditation allows you to kind of like move into that different frequency, so that you can now start really speaking to their soul, their higher self, which is the same thing, their guides, and anybody else who wants to come in. But like outside of that, like I don't know how I would do a reading for somebody without going into meditation. Right.
Well, yeah. I mean, and a lot of people,
you can read on the spot, but again, you're still connecting.
Yeah. There's a depth that you receive there's a depth that we receive, a depth with regard to what we receive when we do it that way, when we go into meditation and connect to the energy of our client in the astral realms, as opposed to reading on the spot. It's just different. But I also want to point out, like, there's different ways to go within. So meditation isn't the only way, although it's probably the most impactful way, I'd say, especially if you're looking to develop your intuition. But, a lot of people will meditate or go within or get quiet other ways. So gardening, I said earlier, gardening is some way where the whole point is to just free up your mind so you can allow free thoughts to just come in. And a lot of times meditation, people will also say, oh, meditation, the intention is to clear your mind and have like a void in there and not think of anything at all. Well, that's actually not true. I think that the truth of that is, like, the purpose is maybe to clear away all of the noise that's going on along in your world and stuff, but that's how you receive, is through these thoughts and stuff, right? Like that's where your downloads, they're coming as thoughts, they come in as feelings, they come in as just knowings and stuff like that. So if you're not paying attention to your thoughts, then you're not receiving anything.
I think that comes in more. Okay, so in that sense of clearing your mind, so for some of us, especially if you have ADHD, and like I have ADHD, I am also a Gemini, deep thinker. In my head, I exist in there, right? So there's a lot happening all the time. As a singer, I remember singing on a stage, and as I'm singing the words, I am having a conversation in my head to myself, like, oh my God, your throat's really, you're gonna crack. And and I'm literally talking to myself the whole time. So when you are somebody that your mind can just multitask, and we've come across this too with some students. So there is an exercise, because it's like quieting out the noise of your day, right? I need to do this, I need to do that. Yes. All of these type of things. And so I remember at the beginning of my meditation practice, I tried this exercise because it was kind of like how to meditate with a busy mind. And it was like this exercise of, because it wasn't that we want to go to meditation and shut up all the noise. No, because that's where we do receive our insight, but we want to receive we want to shut out the right noise.
We don't want to be like thinking about all the things we still need to do. Like, oh, I need to switch the laundry. I still need to go to the grocery store, and I can't forget to sign those papers or whatever.
That's distracting.
Yeah.
And so I remember doing this exercise where it was like they brought you to this like guided meditation, like basically you're in a room, and it was just practicing the act of having nothing in your head. Every time something comes into your head, you like grab a jar, like this is all, you know, in your mind, and you place that thought in the jar and you place it on the shelf. And it's just it's just an exercise to recognize when something comes in and truly trying to just see if you can sit there with nothing, right? It's hard. And you know, I remember like trying this a few times, and I could see like lots of jars and then less jars, and you know, and it was just like this, it's like a muscle trying to like, you know, where you now have control over what is coming in a sense. And I know for like some people, they need to kind of practice that a little bit, and so that then when they do go in, they're not having all their busy thoughts, the thoughts that we don't want, the noise that we don't want.
Yeah.
And that we can be open to hear like the actual insight. Now saying that, you and I still get distracted.
Oh yeah. Especially if we haven't done a meditation or intentionally gone within for a while, then when we do go back into meditation, it is distracted thoughts. It's like
you're in and out.
Like you're all over the place. And that's where we, you know, it's a practice. It's just like anything you do, it's a practice, and you get better at it the more often you do it. And then if you don't do it for a while, it just takes a little bit of time to get back into it.
Yeah. You just keep pulling yourself back in, like you acknowledge it. Like when I was doing it yesterday, I do my like ritual to ground and to clear. I'm like, you know, we teach this in our courses on how to connect safely and properly. And sometimes during that connection ritual, you are jumping in and out, because again, like that connection ritual is I kind of look at it as like the elevator going down.
Yeah. It's like,
I don't know why.
You in. It's true. Yeah.
But in a way, we're kind of anchoring upwards, right? Like our energies.
I know, but I know what you mean. It's like it's like the polarity. Like we're sending our frequency up, but we're anchoring into the frequency.
Yeah. And I feel like the lower I go into this elevator of frequency, the stronger my connection is. But as I'm moving down into this connection, depending how busy my mind is, I'm like popping in and out. And, you know, like last night when I was doing it, I was doing my thing. I was going down the elevator, and then all of a sudden I was like, what? And I like went off, and I was like, oh yeah, like, blah, 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 blah. And then but this is where I'm like, oh, I just popped out. Okay. That's okay. Bring it back. And it's like, I reel myself back in. I'm like, continue moving down. And sometimes you do that like 10 times, but that's okay. It's like you recognize it and you pull yourself back. Right.
Yeah. And then even like freeing up your mind space, doing other things, like artists will do this when they're painting, or like you said, authors, when they're writing a book, they get into that zone and it just starts flowing in. So, and then even like running, people like who like to run, that's like their form of meditation. People who like to hike, that's their form of meditation. So meditation doesn't necessarily always mean you have to sit in stillness. It just means you're getting into that frequency, into that zone where you're allowing your mind to get quiet, in a sense of like, you know, releasing all the noise from outside of you, that just those distracted thoughts, and you're allowing that intuition and that guidance to come through for you. And I don't know, like, I'm sure there's tons of people listening right now that are like, oh yeah, like every time I go for a run, or every time I do XYZ, I always have these inspirational thoughts, or I always feel like I get clarity. Like you probably, when I was a teenager, I didn't know, I wasn't intuitive back then, but there was a spot in my town, whenever I was feeling like life was too loud, I would drive 20 minutes to this spot on this mountain and just sit there in stillness and just contemplate and reflect. And that's where that's how I got my guidance back then. And now it's the ocean. I'll go to the beach sometimes when life gets too loud. Like obviously I can go into meditation, but sometimes it's just like, it's just a little bit different.
The physical, right?
Yeah.
Like the physical, being able to sit there and, yeah, absolutely. And I think another way that can help. So when you kind of talked about, like a painter or a writer, but sometimes when you're connecting, so let's just say you're wanting to connect and you're intentionally connecting to talk to your spirit guide. Some people will doodle.
Yeah.
And it's moving that busy energy, and it's kind of like moving it out through your hand, and they just literally start to doodle, scribble, all those things. There's that medium,
Tyler Henry.
Yes. And so he does all the scribbles and blah, 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 blah. And that's literally, he's just moving that energy out, and it's like keeping his busy mind, his ego mind, all of that occupied over there, so that he can be in that space of receiving. So even try that if you really, really struggle with, popping in and out, because it can be tough. It can be tough.
Yeah. We always like to say too, that guided meditations is a really good place to start for beginners, because it's doing so many different things for you. One of them is like, it helps you develop your imagination center, your third eye, like to see, but a lot of people will give up so quickly because it's hard, especially when you first start doing guided meditations. Like I've even to my husband, I'm like, why don't you do a guided meditation? I can't meditate. I don't see anything. And I'm like, well, because you've tried it like once for like 30 seconds. Like it takes time. Yeah. And I remember that being an issue when I started guided meditations too. Like it's hard to follow the journey that you're being told to do, right? It's a lot, especially if you're new at it. It's hard to form the images in your mind on the spot. That comes with time. Right.
Yeah.
And then it's hard to, like, sometimes you feel like you're 5 steps behind, or you have to do everything exactly how they describe it. So what I realized when I was learning how to do guided meditations is that I had to give myself permission to just let it happen the way it was going to happen, and not be hard on myself. Otherwise I was going to give up. Right. But I found when I was doing guided meditations, my body experienced so many different sensations that it was like, it kept me coming back. It kept me coming back. And my husband would sometimes say to me, do you need to go meditate? Because I would be like in a mood or something. Like, he's like, why don't you go take 10 minutes to meditate? Right. It was like, because I would be done and I would be in such a better mood. And I started with like cleansing your energy meditations. And it was just, I don't know, it was just beautiful. It was just so good. And we still go back to those. You and I will still go back to guided meditations I guess to kind of get us back into the swing of things.
Well, it's funny because I have no problem going into meditation when I'm doing a reading for somebody, because that's just where I go. But when it comes to doing it for myself, I find it a lot harder. And I think that's with anything in life. But that's when I'm kind of like, I just avoid it. And it's just, but anytime, we've gone in and done a joint reading for somebody, or like, you always just feel so much better afterwards.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Even though you weren't even doing anything for yourself, you're reading somebody else, but it was like being in that frequency, being in that stillness, you feel so much better. And then I'll be like, oh, that feels so good. It's like a massage. Like all of a sudden you're like, oh, I feel so good. And then you're like, I should do that more often for myself.
It's kind of like, it's kind of like sex.
Totally.
You're like, God, why don't I do this more often?
This was so much fun.
It was so good.
It was so good. Like, God, we should do this more often. And then your husband's like, yeah, that's what I've been telling you. You want to do it tomorrow? And you're like, sure. And then tomorrow comes, you're like, empty tires, too much work.
But then you just feel so good after. And you're like, oh.
I know. You're like, why don't I do this more often?
So funny.
I know. Why don't we?
Because I don't know.
I know. I'm a procrastinator. Like, even sometimes when I have to do a reading, I'll be like, I think what it is like, I get frustrated with the connecting, like sitting and being like, okay, let's start with the connecting, which is so dumb because almost like within a minute of sitting there and learning or going into my like place of nature and going through my ritual of connecting, I feel like jello, right? I'm like, this is amazing. So I'm like, why do you sit there and you're like, I don't want to sit here and do the whole connection, which takes 2 minutes, but still. Which is like so dumb, so stupid.
Yeah.
Get out of your head.
I think that's like how meditation evolves though, like because we were talking about like the connection and the ritual and opening your channel safely, and there's a safe way to connect and stuff like that, which we teach in our courses. But I think when you start to, if you're wanting to develop your intuition and learn how to receive guidance intentionally, and move forward in a more heart-centered way, all that sort of stuff. One of the things that meditation will do for you is like it will evolve into a place where you can journey with your spirit guides and be shown things specific to your soul. You'll be shown I don't know, these crazy things. So like when you first start meditating, I just kind of want to go through how it progresses. So at first you're like, this fucking sucks. I can't do it. I cannot, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have the time. And then you're like, okay, eventually get to a point where like, okay, I'm going to create the time, 10 minutes a day. I'm going to do a 10-minute guided meditation. Amazing, beautiful. It sucks. I can't do it. This is hard. And then you either quit or you keep going. For those that keep going, it evolves to the point where you can do 15 minutes, 20 minutes. You feel amazing. Your body's experiencing, buzzing, physical sensations. You feel happier. It is something that you look forward to doing. So then when you get to that point, then you start doing meditation on your own, and you don't need the guided anymore because you've realized that you can guide yourself, or that you can experience a guided meditation that just kind of comes into you. So you put on your headphones, you listen to quiet music, and then you sit in a place of nature. And this is where you're now at the point where your spirit guide might join you or introduce themselves to you, or you take a course to meet your spirit guide, or do a meet your spirit guide meditation. And you're like, oh my God, I think I met my spirit guide, but I don't know. Like, is this real? Am I making this all up? And then you're either going to stop there, or you're going to keep going, and you're just going to trust what you receive, because who cares? Nobody's judging you. Nobody knows what you're seeing, just you. So you can either choose to stop there and distrust what you're receiving, or you can keep going. And for those that keep going, now your spirit guide's going to start journeying you and showing you things and amazing things and crazy things. And again, you're going to be like, oh my God, am I making this up? This is crazy. I can't believe that happened. I saw this, I saw that, I experienced this. Oh my God, this makes so much sense. And then you're like, am I going crazy? I think I'm going crazy. Who can I tell? And then you're like, I can't tell anybody because they're going to think I'm crazy. And then that's when things get really exciting. So if you've made it to that point, then, you've done a great job to get to that point, because that's where your guide is teaching you things specific to your soul. And Ali, do you want to share some of the stories that we've seen in our meditations?
Oh God, sure. I'm like trying to remember if I can even remember for myself.
Yeah, because they can be crazy. So there's things where you're like, okay, I can't believe that happened, or why am I seeing this, or why am I receiving this? But I'll never forget one of the first guided like meditations after I met my spirit guide, and I was like meditating every day, because, well, maybe not every day, but a lot, because every time I went in, it was like something new. But I was just kind of, my spirit guide used to put me into this Colosseum. Like, I used to imagine myself standing in this ancient Colosseum. And this is when I first started doing energy healings. This is where I did my energy healings. I would imagine myself standing there. It felt like there was a lot of beings watching me. And so
energies.
Yeah, a lot of energies watching me as I was doing this healing, or my healings. And then eventually that's where I would go in my meditations, and I would just kind of see myself sitting there or standing there. And then at one point, a spaceship came into my meditation, right? Like a a spaceship. And I was like,
A
oh,
spaceship.
I was like, okay, that's random. And so this is like kind of how you know that it's like I'm not like, oh, I want to see a spaceship. And then its spaceship is coming into my meditation. It's like, oh, that's weird. A spaceship is coming into my awareness and it's coming into my meditation. And then and then all of a sudden I was like, I feel called to explore this spaceship. So then I would like walk up and then explore, and it was like, and then after my meditation I was like, that was so fucking weird. And then I'm like, if I told this to anybody, here I am telling it to this whole podcast, they would think I'm crazy, right?
Yeah, well, it does feel that way at the beginning too, when you don't have somebody to talk to.
Yeah,
that's tough, because it feels so profound. And even when you're telling somebody after, because they're not going to feel what you felt.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so even you and me expressing things to each other, or to our alumni space, to our past students and stuff, it's like everybody can, obviously it's more accepting, and we're like, no way, so cool.
Yeah.
But there's something within feeling it and being part of it. You feel the frequency of it, and that's when it feels so real.
Yeah. Like the other day, I just want to share when we were in the alumni space last week. So the alumni space is a space where we get together every week to continue practicing with some of our past students. Mm-hmm. And last week we all went into meditation and pulled forward the energy of Mary Magdalene, because when you learn how to meditate and you've evolved to this point, now you can intentionally call in ascended masters, galactic beings, past loved ones, as ancestors, spirit guides, your higher self. Like it's like there is no limit. You can
pull forward Elvis if you want to. Elvis's soul, like you can.
You really can. Michael Jackson, like whoever you want, even like the energy of somebody that's living. Right.
Well, you have to have permission.
Well, yes. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, there's no limits, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, there is limits, but this is a skill that, anyway. So we worked with the energy of Mary Magdalene, and the intention was to get to know her frequency and to understand what she did, how she was working with us, what she wanted to teach us. Like, there was so many things. One of the questions we asked her was, how do I release emotional trauma? How do I release emotional trauma? And her answer was one word, and it was forgiveness. Right? Like there's so many profound things that you can learn when you go into meditation and you learn how to intentionally connect to receive guidance and insight. And again, like, the sky's the limit. You can work with whoever.
Yeah. Well, that reminds me of like in one of our alumni and one of our students, what was she talking about? I don't even know what we were like reading. So basically, in alumni, you get paired with other past students and you do readings for each other based on whatever topic we're doing, or you're in there doing it for yourself. And one of the things that she received from whatever being it was the soul does better. What is it? No, the human does better when it's connected to the soul.
Yes.
And I was like, I just like was sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, like that makes so much sense. Like the human does better. Our human does better when we are connected and can hear our soul. It just was like, yep.
Yes. And it's just
absolutely
so simple, but so such profound guidance and wisdom.
Yeah. So when you are able, how do you connect to your soul? That's your intuition. Your intuition is your soul.
Learning how to go within.
Yeah. Learning how to go within, learning how to hear your soul whispers, learning to be able to hear, receive, feel, whatever it is. And when we say hear your soul whispers, like, it's not just like the hearing the words, it's understanding what how your intuition comes in, right? So when you're able to do that, that means you are connected to your soul, and the human does better when you are living life from that space, which is just so cool.
I know,
right? So cool and so profound.
I know. So there, I don't know, that would be the second step, we would say, one of the foundations of intuitive development. And so when we talk about how intuitive development is really a journey of transformation and self-discovery, it's because it truly is. It's not just intuitive development. It is just the intuitive development part is the process
Yeah.
of learning how to connect to your soul or to yourself at a soul level. And that's why we refer to it as a journey of transformation and self-discovery, because there's just so much wisdom and guidance and a sense of connection that happens through the process.
Absolutely. It's literally taking your human and your soul and just like merging them, connecting, kissing, whatever you want. They're coming together and they're like magnets. And then it's like, okay. And it doesn't mean it's going to take away lessons or anything like that. Mandy and I do not live our lives with like, I know everything.
Oh God,
and
no.
There's no surprises. Absolutely not. There's definitely all the time we're sitting there going, okay, what does this mean? But I would rather have that than sitting there and be literally be oblivious to it.
Me too. And I feel like now we maybe sit in a sense of curiosity as opposed to fear.
Oh God, so much so, right? Absolutely. When we talked about last year when I didn't know where I was going to live and how it was the first time I truly experienced surrender, and I was like, I don't know, I just trust that it's going to come to me, and it was so easy in that moment for some reason. And to see it unfold the way it did and so beautifully, it was like, oh my God, like that's why they always talk about surrender. Just surrender, just trust, just surrender. And you're like, why do we fight it so hard? I'm like, that was so easy. And then I was like, I'm never going to fight it ever again.
No.
Oh no, I'm back to fighting, like if something's like going and I'm like, what's happening? And I have to like remember, like sometimes it's like we still have our human and our human brain and our human programming and things that are like instilled in us that we are releasing and letting go, and that is going to pop up. It was funny. I'm gonna just we're gonna go off soon, but I sent you a video yesterday of Elizabeth April, who is a beautiful intuitive, and she does Monday calls on YouTube, and it was about like money and like not chasing it, having it chase you. And I think everybody is like money manifestation, like hype, like yeah, I want that. But what really kind of stuck to me was like when it came down to like, we've adopted our family's money story. So how you were as a child, and I just sat there and I was like, oh, I'm like, okay, what was it like as a child? Oh, it was always made known like we didn't have enough money. And the thing is, I didn't suffer like I had everything, but my parents were very more frugal. And that was just well known, right? Like, no, Allison, we don't have money for that. You need to get the off brand or whatever it is. But as a child, you don't know what that means.
Yeah.
You can't sit there and be like, oh no, like they have money, but they just don't want to spend it on this or whatever it is. You don't know. So I'm like, so it's like amazing how you can kind of sit there and be like, wow, how just something as small as that can literally create your money story. And you have those programs moving forward that you need to release. And so,
yeah. And that just
meditation, it's going to help.
Yeah, I was going to say, tying that to meditation is where you can do the work to understand that. So, in meditation, when you get to the point of, the involvement that we kind of spoke about, then, you can pull forward your inner child.
Yeah.
And understand where certain issues rooted within your childhood, right?
Yeah.
And then you get to work with your inner child. And the beautiful part about that is that you don't have to intentionally do anything. When you're connecting with that being or with that energy of your inner child, they will show you what to do. Your spirit guide is leading the way. They will show you what's happening, and you're just observing whatever's going on in your meditation.
Mm-hmm.
So there, it's not like you're like, I'm going to go into meditation and work with my inner child, and I'm going to pull this age forward, and then I'm going to put them here, and then we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. No, your only job is to learn how to connect and pull forward your inner child, and then just watch what unfolds and be open to whatever comes in to your awareness within your meditation.
That story is going to unfold in front of you. And when I went into meditation last night, I didn't know why. I wasn't going in for a purpose. I kind of went in like, oh, okay, from your card reading and from the other, like, about self-love. So I kind of was like, oh, okay, like, what do you want? and that's exactly what happened. Is it started to unfold, and my ancestors came forward. I've never really intentionally gone in and connected to them, and they were showing me this lineage of like dimming your light, of these certain things that maybe goes against self-love, right? So certain things that you kind of get suppressed, and you start to think, well, I'm not good enough, or you're just suppressing some of this. And it kind of just showed this storyline of maybe what has been suppressed and why. And then they just all of a sudden started doing a healing around me. So this is where it just kind of like unfolds. And in those moments, I was like, oh my God, that totally makes sense. I get it, and then I had compassion for them, and I was like, you had to do that. And, now I have it. I've adopted it, but I don't have to keep it. So it's so beautiful, like what you can do. And then now in my present mind, in my present day, that is with me. That is sticking with me, where I'm like, wait a minute, I don't have to do what my ancestors have done. I am safe, so powerful.
Beautiful. So like learning how to connect and going within safely and intentionally. I think we teach that in unlocking your intuition. And then there's a bit of that with Meet Your Spirit Guide course, is the course in where you can, there's a guided meditation to meet your spirit guide. And then we take you on a journey so that you can do that journey with your spirit guide on your own. And then in unlocking your intuition, we teach how to your connection ritual, all about your connection ritual and how to open your channel safely. So if you're interested in, getting a little bit more guidance or organized clarity on how to do that for yourself, you can check those out.
They're self-paced.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's kind of great that you can just work on it
on your own pace.
Yeah.
On
your own pace, on your own pace,
timeline. Daily meditate daily.
Yeah. We'll be checking in.
But no pressure. Just kidding.
Ever.
All right. Well, we've got to wrap this up. So
I just want to give one announcement before we go.
Oh, please.
We are going to be starting our soul activating journey that encompasses all of our courses.
Oh yeah.
So if you're kind of like, you know what, I want to do all of it, and you want to do it like with hand holding and now and like hand holding in the sense of like, we are there with you every week. We are helping you move through those blocks, move through the trust, because that's going to be loud, trusting what you receive. And we're just there the whole time. So if you're like, I want to take all the courses and I want to do it now, then join this cohort. It starts on September 23rd. And that is when we go through all the courses with you, and we see you every week, and it is super fun. And we like to laugh, and we all become best friends by the end.
Yeah, we do like to become friends with our students. And by the end of the 6 months, we're like, no.
I'm really awkward with buys. Yeah, so I usually let Mandy like take over, and I just look at my fingernails or something like that. I hate goodbyes, but it's never goodbyes because we always get so close.
We stay connected with all of our students. Well, we try to.
And so if that is something that you're like, yep, I want to do that, then definitely check it out and get registered before September 23rd, 2024.
Well, I think registration closes on the Friday before the 20th or something.
Well, and obviously if you get this before, you can just send us a message.
Yeah.
We'll get you in.
Oh, we should say though, like if you don't want to do the whole 6 months, you can do the first 9 weeks.
Oh yeah, which is great. So if you still want to do it in like be hands-on and in person, then you can do the first 9 weeks, which is basically meet your spirit guide and unlocking your spirit language. Like it's learning to read energy.
Yeah, you learn how to read energy.
Yeah, before you move on to learning the Akashic records.
Yeah.
Akashic records is so cool. Okay.
You should clip that part. Please.
I just put it in a video.
Yeah, just that one part.
Where did that even come from?
Your enthusiasm is amazing.
Oh my God. Well, there you go, everybody. That's how exciting it is. Let's wrap this baby up.
Okay. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.